Hello, readers and writers. Welcome to lesson 46 of your ELA School Away from School. I am Mr. Driver, and I'll be a virtual teacher for today's daily lesson. Let's go ahead and revisit those same guiding questions. What journey does food take before it gets to your plate? And how do we make decisions about what we eat? You'll notice these two guiding questions as we continue thinking about the presentation we're working on and how it kind of wraps up everything and ties a pretty bow on it. Should say like this is our final week of work. And so thinking about these essential guiding questions kind of helps to answer these as we do our presentation. We'll take that next step with our presentation today. So let's keep these learning targets in mind during all of our work. All right, time to get some of those materials out for today's lesson. You're going to need your selected focus text, at least the two different ones. Remember, we're doing self-selected focus text 1 and 2. So two different article texts. And then we want to make sure we have our lesson 46, as well as lesson 46 note catcher and a pencil. So go ahead and pause the video here while you make sure you have your two articles you've chosen and then the lesson materials. We have 3 learning targets for today's work. I can find the gist of a specific section from the text, what the text is mostly about. I can determine the central idea of an informational text, as well as I can cite text-based evidence that provides the strongest support for my analysis of the text. Let's make sure we keep these learning targets in mind during all of our work. Using your note catchers, so use your note catcher. So I'm kind of reading, of course, like when we think about the position presentation prompt located in the read section of lesson 46. We're going to be sure to make note of the steps you'll be taking in completing this assignment as we are getting closer to the final presentation. So what lesson 46, or at least the read section of lesson 46 says, is use your note catchers and learning about each food chain, the industrial, organic, sustainable, and hunter-gatherer, to write and present position paragraph speech to answer the following question. Which of the 4 food chains would best feed all the people in the United States? Consider the following. When taking a position on an issue, you need to research the pros and cons, or strengths and weaknesses, and compare it with an alternative option, or a second option. When putting forward an argument, you need to provide relevant and sufficient evidence to support your claims. So you need to make sure that the evidence is strong enough. We need to make sure that the evidence supports whichever one you chose. Pause the video here while you return to, of course, the task at hand. So once again, thinking about what steps are in place, but also what we just read from this from this read section of lesson 46. So pause the video here and think about what you're going to need to do. So now we're going to think about some things. So as you are diving deeper into this project, I want you to think, how will you present claims and findings in a focused, coherent manner using relevant evidence, sound reasoning, and well-chosen details? And how will you use visual displays and presentation to clarify information, strengthen claims, and add emphasis? So if you're kind of, this is a lot, of course, using some of the different type of terminology, but you're basically thinking, so how are you going to present your claim now that we've had 2 articles and you're thinking which one might be the best option to feed the country? And this doesn't have to be what we're doing currently, but what you think. So I want you to think about making sure that it's focused, make sure it's around a specific food chain, and that, of course, that you have evidence coming from the article or evidence that supports it. It's not just a random piece of text evidence, but something that does support the strengths or possibly the reasoning why you chose that one or the weaknesses. And then you also want to think about the visual displays. So once again, going back to the article, looking at the picture that's on there is one piece, but you can also add to it. I definitely encourage you guys to go ahead and draw something up, maybe look something up on a computer, on your phone. You can get some ideas like that as well. So now I want you to have a chance to discuss this with a family member, caregiver, or friend. Why is the food chain you selected the best one to feed everyone in the country with? Once again, this is your opinion, not what necessarily others are thinking. How will you present your claims and findings in a focused, coherent manner using relevant evidence, sound reasoning, and well-chosen details? How will you use displays, the visual displays in the presentation to clarify information, strengthen claims, and add emphasis? And if you have the ability to do a PowerPoint presentation or something, that can be done as well. We still want you to go through the steps and write something out, but you can also use computer to show pictures as well. Go ahead and pause the video here while you discuss these questions. Please take out your lesson 46 note catcher. Using the lesson 46 note catcher, begin drafting your position paragraph speech by filling out the graphic organizer. Write down in the opening statement box of the graphic organizer the name of the food chain you are choosing. Look for evidence from your article and note catcher to prove that the food chain you chose is best for feeding all the people in the United States. Identify a counterclaim that you can disprove with evidence. And what I mean by that is a counterclaim would be, here's a second one, not the same food system or food chain, but here's a second one, but you want to make sure that you're able to disprove it with evidence as why it's not the best option, in your opinion. So remember that a counterclaim is a claim that goes against the position you are taking. Draft the opening statement so that it includes your answer to the question with 2 reasons. So an opening statement is just basically your answer to the question, which is, of course, what is the best one for feeding all the people in the United States, but making sure that you have 2 reasons to support why you think it's the best. Draft a closing statement that really pushes the audience to agree with you. So we're coming back to that original, we're going to go into talking about another food system and talking about why it's not as strong, but you always go back at the end, you want to go back to what you started with, which is going to be why this food system, why this food chain is the best for feeding everybody in the United States with. So that'll be kind of a conclusion or concluding statement. So go ahead and pause the video here while you complete this work. And if you've already paused and started back up, this is just one example if you're still thinking about examples. So of course, thinking, here's our guiding question, we're looking at the directions, but the food chain name, you're just gonna go ahead and type in the food chain name or write it on your paper. But then for the opening statement, this is where you're going to want at least 1 sentence. And there's an example here. The industrial food chain has the potential to be both affordable and healthy for all the people in the United States. So affordable, because the food might be cheaper, might be less expensive at the grocery stores, and healthy. Now, of course, you would need evidence to support that. So you would need to explain why it's healthy. If the industrial food chain is the potential, you would need to talk about why it would be healthy. You'd have to make sure you find something to support that. So the claim, what is your answer to the guiding question and why? 1 sentence. So once again, this opening statement, and then your claim is answering the question, which is kind of going into which of the 4 food chains would best feed everybody. And so you would possibly say the industrial food chain would be the best one, and then making sure that you would just write 1 sentence focusing on that. And then you would want the counterclaim or the second food chain or food system right there, supporting evidence and details, of course, from the articles, from anything you've read, and then list 1 piece of evidence. So at least 1 piece of evidence. You don't need 2, but 1 to answer why you think that there are problems or weaknesses associated with this food chain. So the counterclaim, you're going to need to talk about the food chain or food system. It could be hunter-gatherer, but then you're going to need to make sure that you use evidence to support why you don't think it would be the best one. The closing statement, once again, just focus on 1 sentence. So when you look at both of these, we're not writing a whole lot right now. We're just drafting our ideas. We're thinking about it. We're just writing 1 sentence that can best represent your answer or possibly give some sort of evidence. So closing statement with that as well. So now, if you need to, again, revisit your work, but pause the video here while you go back to your work just to check to see, did you fill out this graphic organizer or do you still need to work on it? Okay, time to wrap up today's lesson. Let's think about how you did with our learning target. I can find the gist of a specific section from the text. I can determine the central idea of an informational text, and I can cite text-based evidence that provides the strongest support for my analysis of the text. As a closing, I want you to share your writing with someone and tell them why you chose to draw or write what you did. Also, remember to read a book today for 20 minutes. You can reread or read with a family member, caregiver, or a friend. For fluency practice today, I want you to read the article from today out loud, or just read 1 article, whichever one. Have an adult read the text to you while you follow along, but then also practice reading or rereading the text at least 2 times on your own. Thanks again for learning today. This was definitely a little bit different again, but filling out the graphic organizer is important because that is the first step as we move into the remainder of the steps that we'll be doing to finish this presentation. So tomorrow in lesson 47, we'll continue this learning and kind of go a little bit deeper into it. Have a great rest of your day.